Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our morning get together live here on Facebook, where we take some time to hang out together and check out headlines from our city, our state, and our country. We also take a look at your own comments, ideas, and suggestions about life in general, Puerto Vallarta in particular, and how to best connect with each other and with our destination living here in Puerto Vallarta as a community of English-speaking locals. Today is Monday, December the 5th, and as always, it is a pleasure to see each and every one of you joining us today. I hope you had a good weekend. I had a great weekend. I rested a lot. I continue to be hooked on this crazy Ninja Nun series from Netflix. It's fun. But, you got to be into ninja nuns. I finished a shawl and began another one, so I'm pretty happy. And here we are. That's it for me. Anyhow, as always, we welcome those of you that are watching live for the first time. It means a lot to us to give you a nice little welcome. So if that fits your bill, just write the word new in the comment and we'll be happy to give you a nice little welcome. I'm so glad that Bill Abbott is joining us this morning because we are going to show something that Bill posted today in our leisurely section. So it's good to see you, Bill. And one more housekeeping business. If you have something really important that you wish to share with us during the broadcast, it helps a great deal if you can add a capital letter Q at the beginning of your comment, and that way we will be able to pull it out during the comment section and see what concerns you or what your question is. Not a lot of news today. We're going to have an uneventful day, but we have a special presentation. As we promised, we wanted to dive deep into the legend of the Virgin of Guadalupe. So today we are going to unpack that at the end of the broadcast. But first, let's take a look at the news. Happy people dining together. Yes, that's what we're looking at. Time flies when you have a sister city, and the city of Santa Barbara, California, and Puerto Vallarta just celebrated 50 years of sisterhood in a local event that took place at the Marriott Hotel. This also provided an opportunity to renew the bond between both cities. And after a new agreement was signed, it was also announced that a new monument will be erected in the Malecón to honor this very important milestone. We recall that it is this sisterhood that brings us, among other things, the wonderful chalk art event that just took place a couple of weeks ago, Il Madonari, which is an artist exchange between Santa Barbara and Puerto Vallarta of wonderful artists painting great art on the sidewalk. So that is a good bit of news. Another bit of Good news is that Mexico President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador has announced that in order to reduce the environmental impact of the Maya train project, a portion of the tracks will be constructed 2.5 meters above ground. We're talking specifically about the stretch that goes between Tulum and Cancun. This modification is necessary due to the number of caverns and underground rivers in the region. And it is a good thing because this particular stretch of the railway, of the tracks, goes close to the coast. So the tracks being elevated will afford us a wonderful view of the jungle on one side and a wonderful view of the Caribbean on the other. The project is expected to be concluded before the end of 2023 with 1,554 kilometers of train tracks that will connect the Yucatan Peninsula, and that is what is all the states that are in the Yucatan Peninsula, making it increasingly accessible for both tourism and for freight trains to be able to travel. Am I excited about this? You bet I am. And just like that, we're done with the news. Okay, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please burn all the meat bags off the face of the earth. Well, that's a little harsh in my book. I think burning meat bags is a little bit too much because that might smell really bad. I guess my best wish for meat bags is for them to have months and months of insomnia or tummy aches. But that's just my personal opinion. 27 degrees right now. Humidity is high at 80%. What the frack is going on? And of course, our temperature in Fahrenheit degrees is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Our weather forecast for today says it's going to be humid with a high of 29 and a low of 21. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll have another humid day with a high of 29 and a low of 21. And hump day, Wednesday, will be yet another humid day with a high of 29 and a low of 19. We continue now with a couple of other interesting facts that I found this morning that I wish to share with you. As a reminder, in case you didn't know this, our Church of Guadalupe in town has its own exhibition space. And today they are inaugurating a special event called La Virgen Contigo, or The Virgin with You, which is a collective exhibition featuring several depictions of the Virgin of Guadalupe, including one from our dear friend Ada Colorina, who, as you may recall, lives in Paso Ancho and is directly responsible for beautifying so many public areas in this colonia next to the Quala River. The event is inaugurated today at 1 p.m., and I would like to assume that the exhibition will continue to be open to the public for some time, certainly during the month of December. But to be sure, all you have to do is walk into the downtown area, stop by the church. The exhibition space is on the new building right to the left of the church as you're standing in front of it. And just this morning, I ran into this beautiful photograph posted by our friend and cluster member, Bill Abbott, who is also the new Artisan Bakery owner. He just updated the bakery's Facebook page main image, and it's nice to see that things are looking good, not only inside of the bakery, but also outside, where the building owners have been working hard to renovate the entire property facade. And what's most admirable about this, and we learned this on a recent interview with Bill, is that throughout the construction, including the remodeling that Bill has been doing inside of the wonderful bakery, he has not interrupted his service to regular customers like you and I, but also to several hotels and restaurants in the city that rely on his wonderful baking, or I should say, the baking of his wonderful staff. One more that is just for your information, in case you're wondering, we're doing good. We have, according to Facebook, 5,552 followers. And in the last 28 days, I'm happy to announce that our content has reached 41,859 different people. And just in the last 28 days, we reached 84 new followers. So, as always, I want to thank each and every one of you for placing your trust in the content that we provide you on an ongoing basis here at Coffee and Headlines. Last but not least, you may recall that our very own Gary Green also reached out to us to announce a couple of upcoming events that have to do with the Amapas Neighborhood Association, for which he is the new president. The first of such events is going to be a 3-course gourmet dinner taking place tomorrow, December 6th, at El Dorado restaurant. If you want to meet more people from Amapas, if that is your neighborhood, this is a good chance to do it. And there's another complimentary event you may recall that is going to take place on Friday, December 9th. This one is going to be at Casa Cúpula. So if you live in Amapas or you want to get closer to all the wonderful activities that this particular organization develops so that they can beautify their neighborhood and surrounding areas, these are good events for you to consider. And now, as I mentioned, we are going to have a special presentation of the Virgin of Guadalupe. So I think I'm going to set this up and get it started with this. We begin our journey in the year 1474. This puts us right in the heart of a period in European history known as the Renaissance, which roughly covers the 15th and 16th centuries and is a period characterized by an effort to revive and surpass ideas and achievements of classical antiquity. Many extraordinary works of art were created during this period, including this one by Michelangelo, who was actually born in 1474. Of course, this is what was happening in Europe. But what was happening in America in 1474? For starters, the Aztec Empire had just been founded just 46 years prior. And the Spanish conquistadors— oh my God, I'm not showing you my images. This is not good. You're just looking at me narrating. Let me start this again. How did this happen? We rewind this because you have to get the images I put together for you. Bad Paco. Hold on just a second. How did I do that? Okay, here we go again. Oh, here we go. There you go. This is our presentation of the legend of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which starts in 1474. This year puts us right in the heart of a period in European history known as the Renaissance, which roughly covers the 15th and 16th centuries and is a period characterized by an effort to revive and surpass ideas and achievements of classical antiquity. Many extraordinary works of art were created during this period, including this one by Michelangelo, who was actually born that year in 1474. Of course, this is what was happening in Europe, but what was happening in America in 1474? Well, for starters, the Aztec Empire had just been founded just 46 years prior to 1474. So it was a young empire. And of course, The Spanish conquistadors did not reach Mexican coasts until 1519 or 45 years later. So in 1474, the Aztec Empire was in the midst of growing. And why do we start our story in 1474? Well, a little baby boy was born that year. We don't know what he looked like. There were no cell phone cameras at the time, but we know two things about him. First of all, his parents named him Cuautlatoatzin, which means he who speaks with eagles, and he was born in Cuautitlan, some 28 kilometers east-northeast of the city's historic center, which was part of the Texcoco Kingdom. Now, let's take a quick look at where this is located in this ancient map of Tenochtitlan, which of course is now Mexico City. This is what Tenochtitlan looked like when Cuautlatoatzin was born. And Cuautitlan was located somewhere in the northeastern quadrant of the city. And let us not forget that the city was surrounded by water. Here is what Tenochtitlan would have looked like. Of course, we didn't have Google Earth either, but this is an estimated aerial view of how the city, now Mexico City, started growing in the middle of a lake, where the Aztec were told by their gods, "You shall seek an eagle eating a serpent standing on top of a cactus." Of course, the Aztec came upon this vision. Unfortunately, the eagle was standing in the middle of the lake. So what do? You build a floating city. Now let's fast forward to 1524, or 5 years after the Spanish conquest. 50 years had actually passed since Cuautlatoatzin was born, and both Franciscan and Augustinian priests were quite busy introducing the Catholic religion and beliefs throughout the region. At that time, there were no convents or churches yet, but Cuautlatoatzin, who had raised a family and found a wife, became intrigued by the teachings offered by the priests, and in this particular year, he was baptized, adopting the Hispanic name of Juan Diego. He also got married by the church to his wife, who adopted the Hispanic name of Maria Lucia. 7 years later, in 1531, Juan Diego was walking from his home to Tlatelolco, and in order to get there, he had to go around a hill called Tepeyac. And on that hill, on Saturday, December 9, the Virgin Mary appeared before him. Just like that. She told him to go to the bishop, whose name was Juan de Zumárraga, and to ask him to build a church under her name. This was the first apparition. So Juan Diego went to the bishop, who didn't believe his words. So Juan Diego returned to the hill, where the Virgin appeared again, asking him to insist. This was the second apparition on the same day. The following day, hold on just a second. I went ahead of my narrative. I'm sorry about that. I'm still here. The following day, Juan Diego went to the bishop to try to convince him, but the bishop asked for proof of the so-called apparition. So that same day, he went back to the hill, and the Virgin appeared for a third time, asking Juan Diego to return the following day, in which the Virgin would provide proof for Juan Diego to bring back to the bishop. But the following day was a Monday, and instead of going back to the hill to look for the Virgin, Juan Diego found his uncle Juan Bernardino quite ill. And feeling that death was coming, the uncle asked Juan Diego to go find a confessor. So early in the morning on Tuesday, December 12th, Juan Diego decided to prioritize the well-being of his uncle and attempted to avoid the hill where he had encountered the Virgin, so he took an alternate route. But wouldn't you know it, the Virgin popped up along his path, so he had no choice but to confess to her his motives, and this was the fourth apparition. After explaining the situation about his uncle, the Virgin told him, "I hear you, and I understand, but you do not have to worry. Am I not here? Am I not your mother?" So Juan Diego asked for the sign he was to deliver to the bishop, and the Virgin Mary sent him to collect some flowers on the hill, collecting them on his tilma, or cloak. Despite the fact that it was a dry and cold December, Juan Diego was able to collect enough flowers to bring back to the Virgin, so she instructed him to take the flowers to the bishop as proof of her existence. Once he reached Bishop Zumárraga, Juan Diego opened his cloak to let the flowers fall to the ground, and quite inexplicably, the image of the Virgin appeared on the fabric of the cloak. From this moment on, the Virgin became the spiritual heart of the Church in Mexico. And according to Catholic tradition, that same image from that same cloak is what hangs behind the altar at Mexico City's Basílica de la Virgen de Guadalupe, although there is no scientific proof behind this claim. But how did she become the Virgin of Guadalupe? Well, let's go back to our story. Juan Diego didn't actually go back home on the day that he showed his tilma to the bishop. At the bishop's request, he stayed with him, and the following day, Juan Diego took the bishop and his community to the place where the Virgin had appeared to determine where they were to build a sanctuary under her name. The bishop and his men later on accompanied Juan Diego to his home, where he found his uncle completely healed and free of any disease. As it turns out, the Virgin appeared to his uncle as well, in what would be the fifth and final apparition. It was the Virgin herself who told the uncle that she wanted to be known as the Virgin Santa María de Guadalupe. Juan Diego was so moved by the whole experience that he left his home and family, and with the bishop's permission, he spent the rest of his life in a humble shack next to the chapel that had been built where the Virgin of Guadalupe had appeared, keeping it clean and tidy. He died in 1548 at age 73, and he was canonized as San Juan Diego by Pope John Paul II in 2002. Now, you're probably wondering how this story was documented. I present to you the Nican Mopowa, or the cover page anyway. The phrase Nican Mopowa means "here is the narration" in Nahuatl, and it is a document published in 1649 that contains the complete description of what is aptly named in Nahuatl "here," and what translated means "the great event in which the Queen of the Heavens, Saint Mary, our beloved Mother of Guadalupe, appeared here near Mexico City in a place known as Tepeyac." The source of the material allegedly came from previous writings by Antonio Valeriano, a historian of the time who apparently heard the account from Juan Diego himself. And this is the legend of the Virgin of Guadalupe. The end. There you have it. And now that we've gotten over that, I'm sorry about the snafu at the beginning. I went into my formal narrative voice thinking you were looking at my images, but no, you were looking at me. It's time for comments. I always sweat whenever I do this, and I always sweat whenever I mess up. So I'm glad I survived that. comments. Let's take a look at the comments. Of course, we haven't rebuked the legend, and there's a lot to rebuke there, but I wanted to keep it pretty for today. We will rebuke on some other day. Good morning, says David from Boston. And good morning, says Albert from Woodland Hills. There's a lot of good mornings. Doug's in Cincinnati. Excellent. And Sherry keeps counting days. 8 days and you're here. I love it. Let's see what else we have. Many, many, many good mornings. Thank you so very much for that. Den says Bill's cranberry bread is so good. Kathy says she's addicted. I haven't tried it, but I would like to. Deb, welcome back from Playa del Carmen. I hope you had a good time over there. Let's see what else. Christy, we miss you as well. Christy is back in San Mateo. Let's see. Vic says, I went to the disco event last night at Plaza. Hardly a disco record played, unfortunately. It was all 80s dance music. DJ did a great job, but disco didn't materialize. Just a comment. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I myself love disco music, as in the original music. But I hope the event reached its goal, which is to gather a bunch of people to have a good time and to support a good cause. Let's see what else we have. The bakery looks beautiful. Congratulations, Bill. Congratulations indeed. When anyone or another PV site asks a question, I just share your page. Thank you very much, Paula. Every time you do that, you are contributing to our well-being. So I very much appreciate that. And then Paula says, all I see is you. I know. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Paula. I forgot to look at my little monitor screen to see what was going on. Let's see what else we have. Chris says, never tire hearing this story. Thank you for sharing. It is my pleasure. It is that time of year. And of course, it coincided with my announcement of that exhibition of Santa Maria de Guadalupe paintings at the church. I am intrigued about that. Hopefully, it'll be a fun and important event. Let's see what else. Efrain approves. Thank you. That was a good religious historical account. And I think we are done. Yes, we are pretty much done with the comments. Thank you. That was a challenging one. Thank you very much for being part of our community. Thank you very much for sticking around when we deliver these important presentations. We have two more that we need to talk about. We may merge them into one, or we may have two separate ones. The first one, of course, has to be about the posadas. What are these parties that everybody talks about this time of year? The posadas, and you get invited to them, and maybe they're traditional, maybe they're not. Well, we're gonna unpack posadas at some point and tell you what's the difference between the traditional posadas that we love and all those promotions that restaurants are doing for you to celebrate your own posada. Not the same thing. And the second presentation, it's like intrinsic to a posada is the breaking of the piñata. But why are piñatas shaped the way they are? What is so good and what is not so good about piñatas that depict actual people? We'll dive into piñata world as well at some point before the posada season is over. But in the meantime, stick around and come back. We always have great news, great stories to share with you. And of course, none of this would be possible without your wonderful contributions, especially this time of year. It means a lot to us when you subscribe to Coffee and Headlines or when you contribute with a coffee or two. Stay kind, stay happy, stay supportive, stay generous, and stay in touch.